We are at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Oh, there's Morgan. And we're going to go see the Infinity Mirrors, a special, I guess it's a room you go into? Here, tell me what it is. So it's a special, right, you go into these rooms and it's made with all sorts of mirrors and stuff, and I guess it's just pretty much a incredible experience. Like they have one that looks like the galaxy, right? Yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I'm not really an art guy. Okay, funny little story. Morgan told me when we got to the museum, don't touch anything. See those little silver balls behind me right here? The first thing I did is I went and tapped on one of them to see what it was made out of, and the lady gave me the batumbo. No, you don't touch anything. So I started giggling and told her the story, and I got her to laughing because I had touched stuff. There she is right there. It's the lady, the bald lady with the coat. So we were laughing because I touched something and I wasn't supposed to. Hey guys, welcome to another Mr. Bill Poker vlog. I didn't really play much this week. Honestly, I am burnt out from playing at the Windstar River and just a lot of play before that. So I only played one time this week. I didn't play in my normal Wednesday league because I had my fantasy football league draft, and then I only played one time at Windstar, and it was only a 3-hour session. So I don't have many hands this time.
All in for 200.
Really not raising that light.
Replay. 35. Is that your stack? 15. Ten.
And a 9. Yeah.
40. 12, 1 vote. 15. Check. 20. 25, 20 more. Thanks, sir.
So why am I showing this mundane string of folds and just kind of boring hands. And it's kind of to be a reminder to you guys that vloggers are no different than anybody else. I think that sometimes because we only show like highlight hands on our vlogs, that people think for some reason that we're playing every hand, or we just seem to get lots of good hands all the time, and that's simply not true. So this was just a simple reminder that I have to sit through hours and hours of bad hands just like everybody else. So as you can tell, this was probably a miserable session for me. I'm going to follow it up with 2 more hands that just show you exactly how miserable it really was. So I have 10-4 in the big blind. A very, very tight older woman in the under the gun limps in. The small blind calls and I check. So the flop comes 10-10-4. I flop the absolute nuts. The small blind checks, I check, and the lady checks. Maybe I'm not going to get paid anything on this. The turn is a deuce, and it checks around again. I'm just hoping that somebody hits something and they'll bet something. And the river is a 3. Small blind checks. I bet $20. I don't think anybody's going to call, and I'm hoping, that hope beyond hope that they think I'm stealing. The older lady makes the call. Oh my gosh! And the small blind folds. She had ace-10. I think she's the only one in the casino who I wouldn't have gotten paid on that particular hand. That they wouldn't have taken a stab and raised earlier, and then we'd have gotten it in. But this lady, she was not betting anything unless she had the absolute nuts. So I made $30 on a hand where I flopped the absolute nuts. Oh my goodness, not the greatest of sessions. So I whittled down, and I had $280 left of my, I think I had a $600 buy-in. And I'm in the cutoff with King of Hearts, Jack of Diamonds. There was a limper, and then a middle position player who had been very, very loose, made it 30. I make the call, big blind makes the call, and the limper made the call. So there's 120 in the pot. And the flop comes ace, king, jack. It's checked to the middle position player. He bets 70. I decide it's time. I shove all in for another 250. The other players fold, and he snap calls. Not a good sign. The turn is a queen. The river is a 7. He turns over ace, king. He had been playing so loose on the other ones and raising with very minimal hands like a jack 9 or something like that. And this time he happened to have it. He flopped top 2. I flopped bottom 2. And poof, my money is gone. Again, not the greatest of sessions I've ever had. It's a very dreary day in Dallas-Fort Worth, which is very appropriate for the subject that we have to talk about today. Unfortunately, recently there's some stuff that happened in home games and other places that I played that make me have to talk about the subject of cheating on this vlog. We're going to talk about the types of cheating, why and how it happens to you or me or us, and how you might be able to protect yourself. So I thought using the infinity mirrors from the Cleveland Museum of Art, the display I went to, was pretty much right on target for this thing, because it's all about being false and fake. It looks good, but it's not real. And a lot of times that's what happens in cheating. Now, I don't play online, so I have really zero or little knowledge of what happens online, so I can't talk to that. I can talk about what I know of live cheating, and this certainly doesn't cover every scenario. Thankfully, I'm not devious enough to think of all the scenarios, and it just would never come to my mind. I have done some research on the internet, and I was shocked at some of the ways. I'm going to go over probably just the most common ways here. So the first type of cheating that you find in live is actually just a physical manipulation of something. And these couple of somethings are basically the cards and the chips. So for the cards, there's really a couple of ways to do it. A player can, or a dealer can set the cards. A player can mark the cards. And finally, you can gain information by looking at cards when you're not supposed to. Now, this doesn't mean if your neighbor is very careless about the way he looks at your cards and you see him, that you're cheating. I'm talking about specifically, mostly in like a home game, you shuffle for the dealer and you know what's on the bottom. So you recognize that there's going to be 2 or 4 or whatever cards that either are or aren't going to be in the hand based on where they cut. It's placing cards in the muck in a place where if you lift the cards up, you can see them. That is cheating. So the other thing that people cheat with is the chips, of course. And on the chips, you can short the pot. This happens almost always only in a home game by kind of splashing the pot. It's 50, you throw in 40, nobody knows because you just throw them into the middle of the pot. You can be by stealing chips. This can be in a tournament or cash game by taking chips out of play, or conversely, putting chips into play when you're not allowed to do that. Unfortunately, recently, I have actually seen cheating by manipulation of cards and chips in home games and other places that I play recently. It's going to be much, much more difficult to do it at a casino, but in your home games, that's where it can absolutely happen easily. So, do you have a player in your league or home game that is very, very lucky, and they seem to get lucky all the time? Maybe that player is making their own luck. You know exactly what I mean. So recently we've had a player or players that have done the following. They looked at cards by placing them strategically in a muck and looking at them to gain information, and they shuffled the cards in such a way that they knew what some of the cards were either going to show up or they weren't going to show up. In a home game, we have had a player who has been caught stealing chips. So at the breaks of the tournaments, they are actually doing the coloring up of the chips and adding a few chips to their own stack that they were not worthy of. And finally, we had a player who was setting the deck. It was found out that this player was doing this, so it was found out that they were doing it between breaks. And that since they were the dealer, they then happened to win a big hand on the first hand after break an inordinate amount of times. So it was found out about this, and it was watched, and it happened exactly like what we thought would happen. The dealer ended up dealing 2 really good hands to other players. They didn't have quite as good a hand, had a decent hand, like aces versus kings versus jacks. And then the cheating player happens to hit his jack on the flop and ends up winning a massive pot from the other 2 players. Always after the first hand of a break. In fact, we saw this happen 2 or 3 times in a single tournament, and then took care of the matter. So the second type of collusion can actually happen just as well as a casino as it can at a home game, and that is collusion. So there are basically 4 types of collusion. Number 1 is soft play, where you don't play the person you're colluding with as hard because your goal in collusion is to work with another player or players to gain all the chips. So you simply soft play that player so that they don't lose chips in that particular cash game or tournament. The second type of collusion would be dumping of chips. So you're colluding with somebody, you have a huge stack, they have very little, so you just dump chips to them so that they make sure that they remain in the tournament. Or you dump chips to a guy who's a chip leader so that they continue to get more chips because they have a better chance to win the tournament. The third type of collusion would be signaling. So if you obviously know what's in somebody else's hand, it's a huge advantage. And signaling can be done verbally. It can be a hand gesture. It can be bet size. There can be numbers of ways that people are signaling each other either what they have, what they should do, things like that. And the fourth type would actually be playing together to push others out of the pot. So this would be something like a player bets and collusion player A raises, collusion player B re-raises all in order to try and get A out of the hand. So there's a really very, very recent tournament at the Venetian, an MSPT Venetian final table, where Alex Foxon and Kristen Bicknell, who happened to be dating, were two of the final three left in the tournament, and there was real questions about whether they were colluding or not. I'll let you guys decide for yourself by looking up a video or whatever. There are some people who say they weren't colluding. The vast majority of people think that it absolutely was collusion. The worst case that ever happened to me, which happened at a home game that I played in a number of years ago. And this is when I first started playing there. And after the tournament, there'd be a cash game. And some of the guys who had deeper pockets than others would do literally something like this. We were playing 1-2, and let's say it was raised to 15 pre-flop, and there's $60 in the pot. The flop comes, and a non-colluding player might lead out for $20. Collusion player A then makes it 60, and collusion player B would shove all in for 300, causing the first non-colluding player, unless he had an absolute monster, to have to fold, and then they pick up the $80 in the pot. This particular example was made even worse because they didn't even try and hide it. What would happen would be the raise to 60, the raise to 300, everybody folds, and they literally would say at the table, okay, you just want to chop the pot? And for some reason, that home game allowed them to simply just split the pot then. Oh my gosh. So, of course, I made a big deal about it, and they actually stopped doing it because it is absolutely cheating. And they didn't do that anymore. But my goodness, what a blatant example of cheating in poker by collusion. So how or why does this happen to players? Again, generally in a home game, but can be at a casino too. And I would say the number one reason is because people are naive and they're trusting. You're playing at a home game, probably mostly with friends. There are probably some other acquaintances and people you may not know, but you trust those people. I've been playing in leagues and home games for 8 years with guys, and I would never think that there's something going on that's funny. I'm also personally a very, very trusting person, so I can easily be taken advantage of because I would never even have the idea that somebody would be cheating. So it generally happens because you don't know who's playing in your game. If you don't know the players, you don't know if somebody's a cheater. They could be the nicest, funnest guy in the world, laughing and having a good time, and all the while cheating and taking your money. And finally, why it happens to us is because we allow it. We allow opportunities for cheating. So at a home game I have been playing at, we allowed it we were very, very lax in, keeping the chips out in sight and not putting them away where nobody could get to them. So people could add to their stack. We let people deal who are relatively new to the league. Bad idea. We didn't put in some things like making sure that the cards were shuffled in full sight at breaks. Just things like that. They're simple things, and you don't think that you have to do them because you're playing with friends, but it's always a good idea. If we present the opportunity for cheating, then somebody will take it. So how do we prevent ourselves from being cheated? The number one thing is simply to be aware. Know your surroundings. Know the people who you're playing with. Keep an eye out for cheating. Again, because it has now happened to me recently, I will be on the lookout. Before that, I was so naive, I never even have thought about looking at it for it. But be on the lookout for it. Be aware of who you're playing with. Be aware of your surroundings. And that will go a long way towards you not being cheated. At a casino, know the dealers. Know the players. That's home game and casino. The more you know about them, the more you know of them, the better off you are. And of course, being aware and knowing your surroundings and things like that is a much broader subject of security. Do you feel secure when you're playing cards? Do you feel secure at the location you're playing cards? That's a big deal. We all have heard the story about 3-Bet Panda getting shot in Austin. A friend of mine happened to be there with him and had a gun held to him. So literally it can happen to anybody. It can happen at a home game. It can happen at a casino. It can happen anywhere. Just you have to be aware. I think we also have to be very, very careful about how much we share. In fact, my wife and my mom tell me that all the time because of this vlog. You know, I shared by the fact that my daughter was moving to Dallas a few vlogs ago. Probably not a very good idea. You know, are you sharing on Instagram the amounts of your wins? Are you sharing on their huge pictures of huge stacks or flashing cash or whatever? It's probably okay, you know, a day afterwards, but to do it at the time that it's happening, maybe not as secure as you think. Are you flashing around cash at the casino? I know that there was, at one of the Choctaw tournaments, there was a bet with a young guy. We were at the 2-5 table, and there was a bet, $100. And the bet was how much this guy had in his bag. He was a young pro. And they were betting that he had, some guy said 8,000, another guy said 20,000, another guy said 35,000. And the young guy pulls out 2 bricks of $10,000 from his bag and says the guy with 35,000 was the closest and just brought those. Man, I don't know. Not a very good idea. I would not flash the cash around. And once again, very, very important, know your surroundings. Are you playing at a cash game in a really, really nice neighborhood? Are you playing at a cash game in an area where even the police don't go sometimes? Do you use the security at the casino? I do sometimes, only if I win a lot. But, you know your surroundings. Take help when you can get it. I did have one more thought on the cheating thing that I wanted to present. You know, it's one thing when there's some kind of enemy and they say, I want to kill you. That's one thing. What's even worse is someone who acts like they're your friend, acts like they're your colleague, and then tries to kill you from inside. And this is what I think about cheating, especially in a home game with friends or people that you've played with for months or years. If you are cheating your friends, you're like the guy who's trying to kill somebody after they've sidled up as being a friend. I said this exact thing to the person who was cheating us. I told him the person that would cheat their friends will also cheat on their wife, they'll cheat on their taxes, they'll lie to their kids, they'll lie to their friends and colleagues about everything. If that happens to be something that you do and you don't think it's a problem, you need to nip it in the bud right now. Once you start down the road of cheating and lying and all those things, it only gets worse and worse. So I'm just, I guess I urge people, if you have any kind of issue that you're not up and up 100% again with your friends, just stop. Make it right. All right, we've got a what would you do hand here. This is from my son, Billy. He knew I didn't have a whole lot of hands this vlog, so he suggested this, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So let me give you the scenario. They are 4-handed at a tournament. Billy has maybe 30 to 40 bigs. And he is in 3rd place out of 4. The payouts for this tournament are $230 for 4th, $300 for 3rd, $450 for 2nd, and $650 for 1st. All right, Billy is under the gun with ace-9 offsuit, 4-handed. He's about to make a bet or a raise, and the big blind, who happens to be Rob Jenkins, my new study partner. Now, Rob had only played in the Wednesday Night Poker League a few weeks at the time that this happened, so he was not well known and had a pretty snug reputation. Rob announces raise as though he didn't know he was in the big blind, and we actually think he didn't know he was in the big blind. He just made a mistake, and he announces raise. So now, if you are Billy, what do you do? So we're going to give you 4 choices here. Do you fold? Do you limp, knowing he's going to raise and then come over the top? Do you go ahead and make your normal raise as you would have? Or do you shove? So Billy ended up deciding, you know what, I don't need to mess with this. I've still got 35 bigs or something like that. And he made the fold. He ended up going on to either, I think he came in second in the tournament. So he did pretty well. But interesting spot. This was not, this happened to be on the one about cheating, but nobody thought Rob cheated here. It was just a mistake. Okay, guys, I have been concerned recently about the length of my vlogs. They've gotten quite long, and I want you, as my watchers, to help me figure out what is the best length of a vlog. So I'm going to put a little poll up here, or up here, somewhere, and I want you guys to tell me what you think is the right length for a vlog. I'm going to do 10 to 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, 20 minutes plus, or you don't care because you love them all. Now, of course, the shorter the vlog, the less hands I can do, and maybe that's good. I'm not sure. Longer vlog, more hands, but it takes longer to get through it. So you guys, please let me know. Do the poll and let me know, and I will try and make adjustments based on what people say. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this vlog. Again, thanks for watching and subscribing and pressing buttons and doing all the stuff you're supposed to do. And we will see you guys all again next week. Have a great, blessed week, everyone. See ya.